Hello and welcome back to a very wet, and I mean very wet Bruges for the xEUCF Extended European Ultimate Championship Finals 2021. Benjamin Rees, socially distanced in the booth from Sean Colfer, and we are very much sheltering from the elements here, Sean.
Yes, it's very, very wet outside. It's also quite windy. It's going to make for ugly games all over the place, but I look forward to it because ugly games are always very exciting.
Well, there's an art to winning ugly, I think.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think it's a really difficult thing to do when the conditions are like this, to really manage the game and try and execute despite the fact that it is not like how you train.
I kind of feel that the Swiss are probably more used to this sort of weather than the Italians are, but...
Yeah, you've got to think so. The Italians, Cotarica, coming in from the beach in Rimini, whereas the Swiss are going to see this kind of inclement weather. I don't know, they must live among the mountains or something.
Well, that was probably not how they drew it up, but they certainly got away with it. And now Costa Rica looking to get their first point of the game on the board. Swinging around the end zone. There's going to be a stoppage here for a pick. Sean showing his good knowledge of WFDF hand signals.
Well, the visibility is so poor, we're going to have to help each other out in Benji, I think. So, Costa Rica moving it around. Just outside the end zone, swinging it across, using the width of the pitch really well here. And a nice point to pull it even. So the first point was pretty messy, 2 turns each, but Costa Rica, they're keeping it pretty clean for their first hold of the game.
Well, sort of.
Sort of.
I mean, they didn't turn it over. Should they have turned it over is perhaps up for debate.
Yeah, that's true.
But we talked about the art of winning ugly. Sometimes you are going to have to win those hospital passes, those sky balls. You know, it's not what you want to do, but it's sometimes what you have to do.
Oh, for sure. And you look at the way they won that pass as well. There was about 12 people underneath it, and one of the guys reading it coming in was the person who picked it up. So like you say, you got to do what you have to do, and he's thrown himself into the pile, pulled it out, and Costa Rica on the board.
So the rain is coming down, not quite vertically, but not far away from it, and it is hammering the rubber crumb here on field 2. I must say that, I mean, I'm always impressed by the organising crew that this tournament is. Usually the crew that does Tom's Tourney at the start of the year. And this is, it's a nice organisational challenge.
It really is. It's been really well run up to this point, I think. The people that are running it are doing a really good job. And the fact that they're going to have to deal with this kind of weather must be pretty tough. I know they're trying to organise cover for all the pitches to make sure no one's too out in the open, because it is supposed to be like this for a good long stretch here. So I'm sure the next game, or this game and the next game slot, are going to be very, very interesting as we try to see what's going on, the players try to see what's going on, and everyone just tries to just keep standing up, basically.
I am going to generously call this suboptimal conditions.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, we've just seen the pole fly over the fence, so it's certainly suboptimal. I think that's fair.
And it's a problem for these teams because, you know, they haven't had the tournament all their own way. We mentioned this is a power pool matchup. This is the upper power pool Q. Both of these sides came into this power pool carrying forward a loss from the group stage yesterday. That was against Gentle, 14-11 for Freespeed, and a 15-8 defeat to Bad Skid for Cotarica Grandes. And they haven't done, and they were winless in their earlier power pool matchups as well. Gentle beating Cotarica 15-10 and 14-12 Bad Skid over Freespeed in a game that Freespeed were up for a decent portion of that game, and they kind of let it slip through their fingers, I think. They did.
Bad Skid getting the addition of Nico Müller today, obviously the key central handler for the Germans. He turned up today and probably was the difference in that game. If they had played Bad Skid yesterday, perhaps it could have been a different outcome, because Freespeed looked to be a decent unit.
Not a bad addition to any squad, really.
Oh, certainly not, certainly not. When they're missing Holger, Müller, adding Nico Müller is something that's going to really give everybody in that team a boost and give something you can kind of build around.
And what this means is that this is pretty much a win-or-go-home game, because if you still have championship aspirations and you lose here, well, you can kiss those goodbye, because the winner of this gets into a pre-quarter, and for the loser, that's it. You've got to wait for xEUCF 2022 to bring home a medal. Underneath, that one seems to slip through the fingers. And now Costa Rica Grandes with a chance to break. And they're going to rip this right into Miglioretto's rear end. I'm trying to think what it would be in Swiss German, and I realise that I do not know that. So they're just going to, but they get the turn back, and they're going to jack it again, and did they get away with it? I don't think they did. Potentially a foul call. It looks like it's going to be retracted, no harm doing. So FreeSpeed will pick it up, and now, I see what's happening here. The more ungenerous would call it huck and D. You know, maybe you'd call it you're playing the conditions. It's a field position game at the moment, and the best field position is right over there, frankly.
I think the ungenerous would call it a mess. Personally, it's a bit of a mishmash. I think everyone just doesn't want to be holding the Frisbee because it's going to be so slippy that it's so easy to make a mistake. So just lob it down the other end of the field and let's see what happens.
So I've been on record as saying that I think gloves are lame. I think this is probably the best place for them, although that time didn't seem to do FreeSpeed much good. As well, Cotarica jacked it, and I think it looks like Robin Brudelin who is at the back to just mop that up with that distinctive white headband. It's going to be absorbing an awful lot of water in these conditions.
That centering pass, Benji, was the first pass. It was 4 consecutive turnovers there, so that centering pass was the first pass in 5 that was completed. Oh, the commentator's curse right there.
Well, this is, as we mentioned, it is that sort of game. Tidio rips it deep, and brilliant Sky in the end zone for the goal for Costa Rica. The Italians just about make one stick after a relative glut of turnovers, and it's Andrea Rodriguez with the goal.
That was a great catch. As we've said, it's a bit of a mess. You've got people just jacking it at both ends, but it was a really, really good throw right out in front of the receiver, and he's just gone up and fetched it. Really, really good catch.
A very nice grab by the 69 shirt of Rodriguez there to finally get that point on the board, and I feel like we will see more points like that than we will see clean, calm holds in these conditions.
It's going to be interesting to see because neither of these teams will have trained that way, will they? Neither of these teams are going to train to play such chaotic.
I'd be very surprised if that was their plan. But you've always got to be prepared that there will be games where you might have to play in terrible weather. I mean, we had the forecast. The long-term forecast was for rain this weekend. Maybe not quite like this, but you know, you have to think, okay, how can we adapt to these conditions? Do we have defenses that do we want to try out? Do we want to switch to going zonally? Do we want to change the way we match up one-on-one?
It's true, but at some point you're going to have to start playing your game, because if one of these teams is getting really pulled out of what they usually do, FreeSpeed are usually kind of quite clinical, quite precise. If they're getting completely pulled out of their usual game, then they're handing an advantage to Costa Rica on that. So I don't know if we're going to see this the whole way, but as I say that, we have another big rip.
They were looking for Brudelin going deep, but this time smothered towards the turf by Garnier. And Costa Rica with an expansive shot of their own towards the far sideline. Towed inbounds magnificently by the Italians, taking the reset to Tidio, who looks to be a key handler for this Costa Rica side. Shot down the line, lays out, doesn't make the catch stick. That would have put the Italians up 3-1. As it is, well, it's going to give FreeSpeed another shot at it.
Yeah, there would have been a pretty key break. So early in the game, it's got 2 breaks. It would have been really important to get that early initiative, especially in a game that looks like it's going to be so messy. At that point, they could start putting on different zones, start trying to mess with FreeSpeed a bit because they've got that advantage. But another big rip from FreeSpeed doesn't look like it's big enough.
No, FreeSpeed look like they're trying to swing it so they can get a handler free in a position to huck it without any pressure from a force. But the conditions are just preventing even that from working. As this one down the far sideline tried to lay out to keep it in play, but couldn't do so. One of the other things I think of when I think of FreeSpeed is the overheads. And overheads in these conditions are optimistic, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be so difficult not only to throw them, but catching overheads, coming in from a height with this kind of rain, it's going to be really difficult. It doesn't feel like it's that windy, but just this rain is making it absolutely brutal for these players. Yeah,
there's a little bit of a sway in the trees in the background, nothing too strong.
Got that to look forward to, I think, Benji. I think it's been pretty windy for the rest of the day. I'm sure it'll come back at some stage and we can combine the two. It's going to be lovely.
Oh, good. There is a little bit of debate here because Miglioretto motored it to the line because he was confident that it had got because that was where it went out, and now there's just a debate about whether that is where it went out. And Yeah, in the end, I think they are just going to continue from that spot.
Worthwhile chat.
Hey, it's always better that you take the time to check rather than have any resentment. And in these conditions, if there's a disc there to be caught, you've got to catch it. And Van Barsen left it for another player who wasn't there. This one, it's Bulgarelli who jacks it deep. Brilliant, brilliant catch in any conditions, but especially when it's as slick and slippery as it is out there today.
Looks like it was a clap catch layout. You don't see them too often, but he's just gone all the way to the turf, concentrated all the way in. He had a little layout earlier on where he landed on his knees. I thought it was a little gratuitous, if I'm honest, but that time it looked like it was really, really good. So another score for Costa Rica, and they seem to be thriving in these more chaotic conditions. Certainly when they played Smashed yesterday, it was a very up and down game, a lot of athletic plays, both teams just basically slinging it whenever they wanted to. So Costa Rica are definitely more suited to that game. It looks like they're speeding FreeSpeed up a bit and making them play something they're not usually comfortable with.
And you mentioned that game against Smashed. They won 14-13, sudden death in the end to take their space in the upper power pools. So maybe conserved a little bit of energy for that final contest.
Yeah, they were really, really good in that game. As I say, flying all around the place to make plays on D. The Smashed worked it all the way up. Really tough, intense offensive point for them to bring it even, to force it to universe, and then it was a two-pass score for Costa Rica. Handler threw a beautiful flick huck that was uncontested in the end.
An absolute bomb that there was nothing that Smash could do anything about. And at the moment, FreeSpeed are getting, well, they're not getting much of the same treatment here. Down 3-1 to the Italians. Swinging around the back to Van Barsen. Takes maybe a little bit of a bump there. Works it underneath. Nice catch made by Brunner. Now they're looking down this near sideline. Swinging across the pitch. Into the centre. To the seemingly ageless Van Barsen. Just trying to buy himself a little bit of space from the mark. Goes offhand to reset the disc. Playing it around the backfield. And Van Barsen gets a little bit of contact on the mark from Pietro Vanucci.
Yeah, there's been a lot of contact there. Vanucci is extending his arm across and hitting Barton's arms. I think that's 3 times at this point that I've seen them with some contact, so he's really getting right up in his face.
Just going to wait for everyone to get set in their positions downfield. I can't imagine everyone is particularly enjoying standing out in the rain doing nothing. But who knows? Van Barsen doesn't like the upline cut, doesn't like the reset either, and instead chooses to jack it towards the back of the end zone. Good defensive positioning from Andrea Rodriguez, but there is going to be a bit of discussion here about any contact underneath that disc.
I mean, we talked earlier, or we've talked a bit so far about FreeSpeed being sped up, and that was the first point that they've had in this game where they played what seemed to be the offense they wanted to play. A bit more precise, a bit more considered, worked up the field nicely. That looks like that was a high stall throw, and I don't really know how anyone can call a foul when you're in a pile with about 5 bodies in there. I think who knows what caused any contact, what was the reason for any contact. I would say that is difficult to tell. It's going to be difficult to pass that one.
Unless there's something very clear. Often it's a case of everyone going up for something, and there is inevitably going to be contact when a disc hands like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a foul in there as well, as it seems to be contested, and will go back into the hands of Van Barsen to try and squeeze that one down the line. Finds its target. You can see they're getting into high stall situations there. There's no good resetting available. Squeezing it down the field. Troiano is a standout player on the beach, and he's proven to be a standout here on the AstroTurf as well. Squeezing it in to that front cone where Mosa makes the catch, and 3-2 now, FreeSpeed trail.
Yeah, much more FreeSpeed point, you know, the kind of movement with the disc. Like you say, getting to a couple of high stall situations, particularly around the end zone. Costa Rica really exerting some good pressure there, but FreeSpeed I think are going to be a lot happy with that offensively. Played their own game. Now it's going to need to go out and get some blocks because Costa Rica are really on top at the moment.
So the number 55 for FreeSpeed, we mentioned his prowess on the beach. He's a Spaniard, Juan Carlos Fernandez Troiano, who's been brilliant for their for their incredibly strong beach side. I remember him playing very well at EBUC a fair few years back as well, because pandemic has kind of skewed all things of time. So it's an interesting addition to have someone from Spain playing in Switzerland, but he seems to be fitting in all right.
Yeah, he does. I mean, FreeSpeed has generally not attracted that many of the kind of foreign international stars. I know there was a period where Fab were Flying Angels Bern were bringing in some players, like Davide Mari played for them for a few years, and they brought in some international players there.
Was Nas at Fab for a while?
Nas was there, Thor from Norway, or Denmark, sorry, Thor from Denmark was there. So they had a few international players, but I've never really known FreeSpeed to have too many. But there's also Philip Haas on this team. I don't know whether he's...
The same Philip Haas I remember from the Next Tour all those years ago.
I believe so. I don't know whether he's moved to Switzerland or if he still lives in Germany, but he's another good addition.
So here is a put down the sideline, contested underneath. It goes over the head of the defender and the receiver, so FreeSpeed will turn. Of course, the one frequent FreeSpeed pickup is, of course, someone from this area, from this part of the world.
True, yeah, although not here this time around.
As that one is underthrown into the middle, we're of course talking about PT Andi Molinari. On the doorstep of the end zone now are Cotarica Grandes. Fabri could scarcely be any closer, and he resets to Fantini. Looking for an inside shot. I thought there was a window there, but choosing to be a little bit more patient with it. Francini goes back, resets. Good red zone defense this from FreeSpeed, just forcing Costa Rica back and back and back. This one is going to pop up a little bit and just calmly patted out of the sideline by FreeSpeed. Phenomenal red zone D.
It is. It's really forcing Costa Rica to move it around, and that doesn't appear to be something they really want to be doing much of. You can see they always want to grip it and rip it, so moving it around the end zone is perhaps slightly outside their comfort zone.
FreeSpeed gripped it and ripped it themselves, but there was no one there. And they're giving the disc back so quickly as this one. You can see the wind get underneath it. You can see the IO shape. It's going to hang. Tipped, and there's no possible chance to get it on the rebound for Giuseppe Farruggio.
This is very entertaining, just throwing it and just getting bodies underneath it, just getting a pile underneath the disc every single time at the moment. It's fun to watch. And
this one just goes, well, straight into the turf and then bounces and rolls into Italian hands. It's not clinical by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes it's just fun to see a lot of people try and sky each other. Bit of 500s practice almost. Good pivot there, got the mark, biting all the way around, and that freed up the space for the inside shot, where Samuele Rossello makes the catch for 4-2 to Costa Rica.
Yeah, really nice fake. Got his mark moving. Mark gets completely faked out of position, and that inside lane is nice and wide open. So nice score there for Costa Rica, who did struggle a little bit around the end zone last time around, but executed really cleanly there. It was very nice.
So I've come from WGG and BUCC, the World Great Grandmasters Beach Ultimate Club Championships, on the scorching sands of Sardinia.
Practiced that acronym a few times, didn't you?
I have to say it a few times, yeah. And where it was, 30 degrees all week. To be fair, there was windy at times, and that's not quite where Costa Rica are from, because they're on Rimini on the east coast of the mainland. But the reason I bring this up is because they are here in the wind, in the rain, in the wet, on the grass, when actually there is maybe one of the biggest beach tournaments of the world happening back home.
Well, do you mean Beach Nationals?
Paganello.
Paganello, of course. Is that happening now?
I think it's this weekend.
Oh, wow. I haven't played Paganello in quite some time, so it's not something I'm familiar with. But yeah, Paganello is huge. Yeah, normally, of course, it takes place over the Easter weekend, but with very different restrictions in place at having it this time of the year. So you wonder if at some point they're perhaps regretting their decision to come. I'm sure if they win this game, they'll feel pretty comfortable with it. Yeah, definitely a results-based business, deciding whether or not it was worth coming. If they are able to make pre-quarters, have a shot at the championship, they'll feel pretty good about travelling here. So
here's Nicolas Miglioretto. He's going to gun it. One pass, not quite, just rolls off the fingertips. I mean, that would have been efficiency of the highest order. Yeah, that was really, really nice hucks. Maybe slightly high, but in these conditions, getting it all the way to the end zone in one pass, right in front of your receiver, I think it's a really nice throw. Just a little unlucky with the reaching out to try and grab it at the end there. And it looks as though we have another call here. I was talking to someone, you mentioned PT Andi Molinari. I was talking to someone yesterday about why PJ isn't around, and they were saying, oh, he's a little older now, and
once you get older, you get a few injuries. And I was like, oh, how old is he? 30 was the answer. So I felt very bad about that, Benjamin.
Yeah, I'm only 29, and
Oh, so you're still in the fighting fit.
I mean, no, but then I never was. So, so it is okay as FreeSpeed make the most of the short field there to punch it in on the first pass and reduce their deficit to just the one. The rain, I say this touching, I assume this table is wood.
Looks wood.
Looks wooden enough. I think the rain's easing off.
It does look to be abating slightly, yes.
That being said, still very much not ideal playing conditions.
No, definitely not. It's still not that windy, but being a little wet, this disc is still going to be really greasy, so it's going to be really tough to get hold of it. But to be fair, that hasn't affected Costa Rica at all, because they have been really putting a lot of power and spin into these throws and getting them all the way down the field. I think FreeSpeed are going to have to try and figure out a way to either stop those throws coming out or deter the Costa Rica players from sending them quite so freely, because at the moment the FreeSpeed D is not dictating the terms of this game.
I wonder if playing as much beach ultimate as you do in Rimini helps in these sort of conditions, because on beach you can't just, you know, bomb hucks as far as you want. You have to learn to throw those hucks with touch. And in these conditions, being able to really grip that disc hard, generate as much torque through the wrist, as many revolutions on it as you can, it's probably a very valuable skill to have, I imagine.
Yeah, it may well be. As you say, it's usually windy on the beach and people can't run quite as fast, so you're going to need to really be good in your mechanics to get it down there. And this is the kind of weather where your mechanics are extremely important. Any kind of slight error with how you're holding the disc or gripping it or your release point is going to be really exacerbated, because it's just going to slip out there.
That's exactly what I was going to say, magnified and exacerbated. Just having a look at the YouTube chat, it feels like there is a very large Italian support in there.
Yes, I can't read any of those.
Well, I can read the word ankle breaker.
I assume that's on that inside throw, because it was very nice. The force did pretty much fall over. It was a really nice fake.
I can't remember who it was, but generally at one point I did see someone literally like juke someone out of their boots, like to the point where their foot came out.
Literally out the boots?
Well, not that the foot came out, like the shoe like explode.
Wow.
Like they just like planted it, and evidently the sole detached from the main part of the boot.
That's got to be satisfying, knowing that you did that to someone's boots.
The mark of, like, just keep it as a trophy afterwards.
like a pelt on the wall.
Exactly. So you can just see the scoreboard there in the background with a slightly dampened, forlorn-looking volunteer. Volunteering can be a thankless task at the best of times, especially, you know, especially when you factor in this weather. But tournaments like this do not run without the incredibly hard work of all the TDs and volunteers. So we thank everyone on the ground here for xEUCF in Bruges for doing their utmost to put this tournament on what are still very testing circumstances.
That was a phenomenal roller pull, getting it all the way out. They're down, coverage ready to go. Really, really good pull.
So Cotarica bringing the disc in, finding an underneath pass, getting it in plenty of space. Now they're working towards the far sideline. It feels like we're seeing a bit more ultimate being played, rather than just trying to fling it as far as possible without any necessarily expectation.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's FreeSpeed making an adjustment. They're clearly backing all the cutters, which gives them space underneath. Costa Rica are showing that they can take advantage of that. They're not just a team that jacks it. If you give them space, they're going to be able to pull you to pieces.
Fabri looks to get it past the mark, unable to do so. Mosa with a low laser. That's not the sort of one you need to throw in these conditions, because it did not give either of his two receivers in the area a chance. Girotto finds an option underneath, wearing this red maroon snood is Mali. And the blades towards the side of the end zone. Thought he read it well, but it just seemed to deviate at the last moment and maybe sink on him. That's got to be frustrating for the Italians, because it looked like they were about to restore their 2-point lead.
Yeah, it looked to me to be a really good option, but FreeSpeed have just taken it from the back of the end zone, not even wasting time to walk it to the front to try and play huck and D.
I think they're just trying to catch the Italians off guard there. Maybe they're not expecting it, and that'll give their cutters a bit more space. Maybe a bit of an earlier read, but did not pay off.
I think it was Miglioretto, and I mean, he's won the windmill pulling contest a lot of times. He can throw it a very long way, but he can barely get it over halfway. That's kind of how the conditions are at the moment.
It is so difficult to get that spin on the disc that you need when it is this slick out there. Fantini inside, but in front of the first receiver, behind the second, just seem to bisect the two of them. And you can tell immediately as soon as the disc gets back in, the Rimini defenders, they're dropping off. They're expecting the big from FreeSpeed, but so far they're playing it underneath. Reset. Miglioretto has it. Fakes the backhand. Not necessarily with huge conviction. With the still count rising, just tries to sit one up for someone to run onto. No one there though. And now it's Rimini's turn to play it in quickly. Big fake from Mali. Working it between these poached players at the back till they can find perhaps a bit more space downfield. Looking very cluttered towards that far sideline, but they get off the reset very nicely. Again, really trying to move the mark. Very tall man, down all the way on his knees to try and stop those low releases, and then that one bounces in and out of the hands of Eduardo Fabri. Miglioretto, he's already trying to use the full width to get that huck off. He's going low and around to Mosa, but it won't get there. Brilliant defense by Fabri to earn back the turn. Now on the end zone, yes, no. He's caught it, but he's not in bounds. It's Tommaso Francini. Francini tries to get a player muscling towards the front of the end zone. Mosa says there's perhaps a little bit too much argy-bargy as he collects the left-handed dish over the top.
This is real cardiac stuff, isn't it, Benji? You've got people flying all over the place, discs popping out people's hands. This is really, really exciting.
It's been end-to-end stuff as well. You can see there is a Swiss contingent in the chat as well. Thanks, Dimitri. Everyone who is listening and watching on YouTube, it makes a huge difference to have you all along with us. Hello, whether you're watching us now or on demand, although obviously you're watching on demand, we can't talk to you. Unfortunately, I do not have the powers of precognition just yet, as this is checked back in all over the top. I'm pretty sure that wasn't the intended target. And Brudelin is pretty sure that he got the T of 10 out of there anyway.
Yeah, it looked like it was in his hand for a long time. If that isn't the stall light, it's getting very, very, very close. They did make the catch, so if this does go back, there's no, well, you turned it over, you threw it and turned it over, so you can contest it and send it back. It does feel like these are usually contested, as it is there. And on the check-in towards the far side, spectacular effort. Tried to scoop it tailing edge before it went towards the ground. Did not get close to it, and there is the insta-pick, the insta-turn, the insta-jack towards the far sideline that doesn't come off. Felix, get out of the way! Low, collected is Girotto. Girotto looks over the sideline, very exaggerated feet, and with the lefty, visionary, absolutely visionary. Just how they drew it up, Sean. That is what we're going to do is you're going to go in, bash it up in the air, and then I'll collect it as I jump into the end zone. It worked perfectly. That is exactly what you drill. I'm sure they spent hours working that out, and it has foxed FreeSpeed, so it did its intended job.
The harder you practice, the luckier you get.
I think that's fair. They earned their luck a bit there, I think. Defensively, they were very good. They swarmed every single huck that went up, gave FreeSpeed no space deep. Every time a FreeSpeed handler caught it, you could see a Costa Rica player just played straight up, just arms working, really tight, not giving them any space to get those hucks out. So they were choking FreeSpeed offensively. I think they earned the fact that they had a slightly fortuitous point in the end.
It certainly feels like they're doing more in the conditions than their Swiss opposition is.
Yeah, for sure. They're dealing much better with this than FreeSpeed are. They've understood what they need to do, how they need to adjust their game, and they've also understood how FreeSpeed are trying to adjust their game and are taking it away from them. So at the moment, FreeSpeed are really behind the 8 ball here. Costa Rica have set the terms of the game, and they're currently looking in good position to take that final spot in the pre-quarters.
And it's interesting because looking at the rosters, you feel like there should be more than enough experience on that FreeSpeed's roster to be able to deal with these conditions pretty handily.
Yeah, and the inverse is true of Costa Rica as well. They're a young team, so it's surprising they've managed to really identify this so early, although that pull looks to be pretty off target, I would think.
It wasn't the best pool I've seen all week.
No, certainly not the best pool I've seen all week. But
it also wasn't the worst pool I've seen all week. But then we were playing on the beach in very strong winds by the end of it. So yes, one to forget about there. Miglioretto, he points, he shoots, he fires, incomplete. Defender had the better position and just a little tap to the ground with the receiver shielded out of play.
Yeah, Frisbee just really struggling to make that final pass into the end zone. Miglioretto he's obviously a really good player, has been a good player for a really long time, but he's going through a period here of becoming pretty expensive. It's
an interesting mentality. How do you do it? Because a player like Miglioretto, he's a shooter, and there's an extent to where you've kind of got to let him shoot, but obviously on a day like today, sometimes you need to know when that's maybe doing more harm than good. This one skies and posterizes the pack of receivers. Goes into the end zone, nearly dropped it. Did Bulgarelli. He tried his best to waste the opportunity and then just about got away with it. Well, that was slightly fortuitous, but all created by the phenomenal sky in the midfield.
Yeah, Costa Rica are just backing themselves fully here. They're just throwing it into traffic and he's coming down with it and then putting it out in front. He's tried to catch it, maybe thought, that's a little off point because my hands are wet, the disc is wet, let's land and make sure it's definitely safe. But that gave the FreeSpeed player a bit of time to get in there. There's been a lot of plays in this game, Benji, where I've ended up with my hands on my head just chuckling to myself because it's just crazy at the moment.
I thought you were just protecting yourself from the rain.
No, it's protecting myself from the insanity that's going out on this field. It's very exciting, but it's certainly not how you would coach people to be playing, I don't think.
It is, I'd call it perhaps Hollywood Ultimate at points. Like, you're just putting stuff out there for players to try and look good. In better conditions, I can't imagine this would necessarily be the style that both of these teams would play, but I think to credit to Costa Rica, because not only are they making those plays more consistently, but I also feel like they've shown a bit better ability to work it underneath.
They have. FreeSpeed backed them because it was so often that they were going over the top, and then Costa Rica just worked it underneath. So they've shown that offensively they're versatile. They can do whatever FreeSpeed are trying to make them take away. And yeah, they're really doing well and very far in the ascendancy here.
So something a little bit different defensively. Perhaps that looked like a bump on the mark on Mosa. And it is going to be uncontested and checked back in. Well, the rain's picked up again, by the way. I'm pretty sure you might be able to see it on the stream anyway. High release backhand down the line, finds Van Barsen. Van Barsen looks for Mosa, doesn't like it, still turns to find his reset. Excellent dump defense, just sneaks it past the ears of Rodriguez, but they can't make the catch. And another break chance here for Costa Rica. Down the far sideline, they've got options all the way across the pitch. That would have been an expansive blade, thumber, whatever they wanted to throw. And in these conditions, probably best that they holstered that one. Fantina, little dish into the middle, continued around. Bulgarelli low, brilliant cut, brilliant diving snag. Another break for the Italians, 7-3, and they are making short work of the storied Swiss FreeSpeed.
Yeah, they're looking really good. We said earlier, or I said earlier, that they might struggle a little bit more around the end zone because they're just looking to play a Huck and D ultimate, but that was some really nice work around the end zone. They took the brakes on, they expanded the field, throw to the cutting handler for the score was pinpoint, and they are looking really good at the moment for this 7-3 lead. They've fully earned it because their D has been absolutely stifling. FreeSpeed trying to get a dump set there and just nothing doing. And Costa Rica so energetic and so ready to go for the quick start that both players just ran past the disc. Neither one of them decided to pick it up. They just both ran to the end zone. They're just absolutely feeling it at the moment and really confident.
And it will not surprise those of you at home to know that FreeSpeed have called a timeout. In a way, perhaps the biggest surprise is that we didn't see this earlier.
Yeah, I think they certainly need to try something. I know they've had a chat a few times to try and adjust and try and decide how to take Costa Rica off their game, but Costa Rica seem to be a team that really feed off energy and feed off positivity, and they've got a lot of it going at the moment because they are making this very, very difficult for FreeSpeed. It's already tough in these conditions, but when you're in a game against an opponent who is able to just take everything away that you do well, and then you try to take something away and they just beat you the other way instead, it's going to be pretty demoralizing for the Swiss at this current moment.
I appreciate this may be pandering to stereotypes, but I tend to think of Italian teams as being those kind of slightly brash, confidence-based teams, where when it's going well, you can kind of see the chest, not necessarily the literal chest beating, but like you feel like the cutting just has that little bit more oomph behind it. The decision making's a little bit sharper, and sometimes when things aren't going their own way, it feels like perhaps the swings are a little bit more severe than they are with other teams. But full credit to Costa Rica, because there have been times when things haven't gone their way and they've kept their heads up and they've just gone back at their work.
On the sideline there, kind of being them on. Clearly he's doing a good job as well, getting this team prepared and making the adjustments they need to make, because Costa Rica look to be really, really strong and are well on their way at this point to sealing a spot in those pre-quarters, a chance at the top 8.
And that would bode very well for Italian Ultimate in general, to kind of show people that look, it's not just about Bologna. We've got some proper players elsewhere in the country as well.
Yeah, there's clearly some really strong players here. I mean, I think it's Paradisi is wearing 98 on his shirt but 21 on his shorts. He has been absolutely fantastic in this game so far.
I'm just thinking about the various young players that I've enjoyed coming up through the junior ranks in Italy throughout the years, and if that talent kind of takes what they've learned, diversifies and spreads that around the country, it raises the level across the nation. As Miglioretto goes underneath to Haas. Haas with a devilish little inside flick. And then down the sideline, just behind the outstretched hand of Bush. And then, well, immediately it's going to go back to the floor and everyone is kind of stood in the same place. So it would not surprise me if there was some sort of contact on the mark.
Yeah, it looked like Brudelin just coming from behind as he winds up the backhand hook. One of those unintentional things as you're coming through to try and get on D, but he definitely impacted that throw.
So Brudelin checks it back. Nice expansive faking to try and move Brudelin around on the mark, and then was looking for the throw and go, and there was too much throw and not enough go. Not enough go. Too much go, not enough throw. There we are. Oh, yes! Wow, that was unusual. I thought it was good, and then he dropped it, and then he hadn't dropped it. Good focus from FreeSpeed to stop the slide at 7-4.
Maybe that's the kind of thing they needed, something where things have just not been going their way for the entire game, and they got the bit of luck that Costa Rica were enjoying early on. We said in a couple of Costa Rica's early scores that they were very fortuitous, and perhaps that slight bit of luck going FreeSpeed's way is going to start to turn the tide here. Certainly the Swiss will be hoping so.
Yeah, again, certainly not.
It's exactly the kind of point you can't afford to give up if you're FreeSpeed. They need at this point to start really putting pressure on Costa Rica's offense, but they just can't do it at the moment. They're struggling massively to do so, and Costa Rica look pretty comfortable for their 8-4 lead.
Well, we mentioned earlier how FreeSpeed, they're up a couple of points at times against bad skin in their first game this morning before they just couldn't quite hold on to that. And you do wonder now how much that perhaps took out of the tank.
Yeah, it's a good point, because obviously they would have been targeting second place or even the win in that pool, depending on the results of the other people. So the fact that they've lost both games coming into this, they need to win this to keep their championship ambitions alive.
Order up 8-4 on Odin. Forward taking half over XVI 8-7. The Big Easy up 9-8 on Jetsmet. We mentioned this game. Gentle currently 10-8 up on Bad Skid.
Good call from me there, I think.
Yeah, so Gentle to top the power pool perhaps. Who knows? MUC and Foy tied at 9s. 9-8 between Outsiders and Prague Devils. The Bridge are up 7-5 on Terrible Monkeys. And those are all the games from previously. There might be other games going on that Ultimate Central is not live updating for, but we'll try to keep you abreast of what's going on across the tournament here at xEUCF. And if you are enjoying the coverage, then I'm contractually obliged to tell you that you can like, share and subscribe to find out whenever ULTI.TV goes live as well. There is apparently a little bell that you can ring that will give you notifications.
The KFK Clapham current score is an interesting one. KFK have beaten other people in that group kind of more convincingly than Clapham have, so Clapham clearly making some kind of statement there after their 15-12 win over Red Bulls, where they struggled against the Red Bull zone, but clearly playing well against KFK, who up to this point had looked one of the stronger teams in Bruges.
It wouldn't be the first time where, you know, you think Clapham, oh, well, maybe they're making this a bit tougher than it needs to be, and then they just kind of, they have a bit more in the tank when they can just kind of put the hammer down. But yeah, they scored 7 on a row to finish off ISNO, 15-6. They took half on Red Bulls, 8-0 in their initial pools. So yeah, KFK having a good week so far at xEUCF, even if it's not going their way. In that game, so Cotarica Grandes are starting the second half on offense, looking to add further misery to FreeSpeed, but that one goes into the turf, can't be rescued. He had FreeSpeed's D-line start this second half in style. Looking underneath, just waited a split second too long. Did Menzinger.
You can see his frustration. He knew that he'd stopped and given the defender a chance to get back into that play.
Just kind of pounced through a window that it never should have been opened. And another elaborate grab there, high from Lorenzo Turci, looking towards the end zone, having to tow it into the back. No, easy room for Alberto Girotto. And Cotarica Grandes just opening that margin ever more, now 9-4.
But I think a good sign for FreeSpeed, because they've up to this point been going with roller pulls coming from left to right as we look at it. That time Miglioretto unleashed with a backhand pull, went a long way down the field, and they were able to get a turn. They had a shot at that, so that's a good sign, I think, for FreeSpeed. That's what they need in this second half. They need to get some turns, they need to take some shots to the end zone and kind of start clawing this back step by step. There was one error on the cut, but a good sign for their team.
It's all very well generating turnovers, but you need to be able to put in your own points as well.
Definitely, definitely.
Especially when you are such a large margin down.
Yeah, it's no point improving your D if you're gonna give up more breaks for sure. So all these O points have been important up to this stage, but this O point particularly is really, really key for FreeSpeed.
I mean, it's xEUCF. Every point matters. Not that it doesn't matter at other tournaments, but you know what I mean. It feels like it matters a bit more because it's the climax of the club season. This pool, well, you could build a house under that one. It took so long to eventually come down. And the Costa Rica defense is set immediately as FreeSpeed trying to get the Huck game working in the second half, and a touch too much for Nicholas Bush to reel in.
Yeah, and we've got Costa Rica taking a leaf out of FreeSpeed's book here, just picking it up at the back of the end zone and throwing it deep straight away.
Little souvenir for a fan on the sideline, perhaps, to catch and get back in play. Imagine if this was like baseball, where if you caught it on the sideline, you're just going to take it home.
It'd be expensive for the TDs, I'd say.
I wish when the weather's like this, yeah. Maybe a few years down the line. Didn't like the upline cut to Miglioretto. Goes very far behind with the reset. Now down the sideline. Nice elevating grab. Hopped into the end zone as well. Couldn't connect the first time round, but Bush does get his goal for 9-5.
Yeah, that was much nicer from FreeSpeed rather than just throwing it speculatively into kind of some space that you hope some people might be cutting into. Certainly the first Huck was pretty tightly covered going downfield. That was a really nice throw into a cutter moving into the space at the front of the cone, front of the end zone. Caught it on the cone, and a much needed score for the Swiss. And they just need to keep turning up that defensive intensity and keep trying to generate turns. But it was interesting seeing Costa Rica do something that they haven't up to this point done, that FreeSpeed had been doing in the first half. You would think, given how the first halves had gone for both teams, that Costa Rica would probably try to avoid what FreeSpeed did in the first half.
So here's an interesting thing, at least for me. If you're looking at the size of these various rosters, they've both bought a lot of players, but FreeSpeed have bought a lot of players. I mean, this has got to be in the high 20s at least. And especially when the conditions are as tricky as they are out here. Is this a scenario where perhaps it could work against you? Because the fact that Costa Rica, perhaps you're getting the same players out there more often, they're adapted to the conditions a little bit more, as opposed to you're getting players out there who are still trying to work their way into the game a bit more.
Yeah, it could be that the FreeSpeed guys are coming in a bit cold, coming in a bit wet, and not quite up to speed, but whatever the difference here, Costa Rica is certainly making it count.
So Costa Rica with a winding backhand on the pool. It wasn't the prettiest throw, but I'm not sure Costa Rica will care because it's found his target in the front of the end zone. One pass ultimate, cannot get any more efficient from that from Costa Rica. And they're up even further now. The 5-point lead is restored at 10-5.
Yeah, it looks to me as though the Frisbee defender, I think that's Cotarica, just kind of face marking, didn't quite see where the disc was. It was very, if that was the person that the thrower intended to go to, it was an extremely expansive option, and it was a very nice catch in that front corner, but just the defense switching off slightly for Frisbee and giving up another really short goal. We talked about how much they need to put pressure on Costa Rica's offense, and again, that's another point that slips by where they fail to do that.
So 10-5 is the current scoreline here on field 2, this AstroTurf field, which in this lane can get very slick and very slippery. We've seen the players lose their footing a couple of times, something certainly perhaps to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it can be tough on this AstroTurf because you can't wear the longer studs that you might wear on grass that will help you keep your footing on the on grass, but on AstroTurf those aren't really going to help you. They're probably not even allowed, so it's difficult with these kind of conditions to just stay upright the whole time.
A very elaborate stopping of the roll there from Robin Bruges, but you've got to love the commitment. And he tried to pass as well, but the execution wasn't quite good. Bulgarelli was just laying out just to close any window that might possibly have been open. And they jack it deep, but trying to curl over their head, didn't get a good read on it. Now FreeSpeed, rather than just send it immediately, work it underneath, lovely break. Goes free into the center. Haas's time, turns, tries to find a target downfield. Sekkinger to space. Oh, it just pops up over Van Baarsen at precisely the wrong moment from a Swiss perspective.
And another quick turnover.
And just the cheeky little push pass into Miglioretto. Cool as you like for 10-6. Well,
very strange point, that. A very strange point. Miglioretto threw it into a completely guarded receiver. There was some very quick turnovers, and definitely that Costa Rica huck at the back of the end zone. At the back of the end zone, he's taken a step and then thrown it. FreeSpeed don't call the travel because he's turned it over, but what a bizarre point.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure Miglioretto will catch many easier goals, I was going to say this tournament, ever.
No, pop right into his path, doesn't even have to run, just jogging in there.
Also, push parts in this weather, love it.
Yeah, potentially risky, but I suppose when you've got the kind of space that Haas had there, you can take that chance. But Haas has taken his hat off.
It's in this weather, where sides don't have the consistency that they would like.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that FreeSpeed really needed, kind of starting to generate a little bit of pressure and starting to work more in Costa Rica's half. It feels like most of the game has taken place in FreeSpeed's half up to this point, but that zone has slowed Costa Rica down, earned some turns. Now they're going to have to try and put this in.
Ebinger tries to roll, curve a backhand down the sideline, but the receiver has to wait for it, and the defender is under no such restrictions. And now he puts it deep. There is a receiver there. Did he get the catch? He did. He's in bounds as well. And now they've got a 3-on-2, but they don't move it quickly enough, and the FreeSpeed zone gets set back up. But clearly, Miglioretto just switches off for a split second because the throw goes while he's turned the other way, and by the time he's seen it, it's already too late, 11-6.
That backhand from pretty much from the end zone all the way over to this near side was an absolutely fantastic blady backhand right into space. No one but that receiver was catching that, and even that receiver wasn't catching that until he popped it up to himself. It was a really fantastic throw and opens up the field and makes that FreeSpeed zone a lot less effective. It's surprising it's taken this long, Benji, to see our first zone, because especially given these conditions, you would think that you would want to try and slow people down and give them different looks, but FreeSpeed have been going with match for the whole game up to this point, as far as I can remember, and maybe they're going to need to go back to this zone because they're going to need to try some new things, try and give Costa Rica some different looks.
I think the thing with match is that a lot of the time it's comfortable. It's generally team's primary defense. Now, it's maybe not incredibly windy, even if it is very wet. And I think, as you know, maybe FreeSpeed, they've got the confidence where they look across the line and they feel that one-on-one, I should be able to take this matchup. But sometimes it's not about what you can do individually, but it's about what you can do as a team. And actually, are there smarter ways to play team defense in these conditions than just going one-on-one? It's an interesting thought.
A wise person I know once said that you should never lose a game without trying a zone, so I'm glad FreeSpeed at least changed it up.
I heard that as well.
Same wise person, maybe?
We shall have to converse later on. I mean, apparently we're already conforming if we've been listening to the same advice.
True.
That scuba over the top, got a little palm in the way, and now hits the floor, and with a timeout to use, Costa Rica going to do perhaps the sensible, if slightly conservative decision of taking one here.
A good decision, because this is a really crucial point. They're going to want to gather together. Their coach can start talking to them, kind of try and calm them all down from that defensive go, go, go attitude to another offensive point. If they put this in, 6 points ahead, only 3 points away from confirming their place in power pools.
Feels like game over, doesn't it?
I think so. And I certainly think, given the fact that FreeSpeed have been really struggling in this game to kind of keep their momentum and generate any positive momentum, I think it's going to be very, very tough for them to come back from a 6-point lead this late in the game.
So just trying to bring you some updates on some of the other games going on around the complex at the moment. The Bridge up 10-7 on Terrible Monkeys. This is a tight one. Moon catches up 7-6 on Wall City.
So that pool is fascinating.
Oh yeah, that is, I mean, talk about a power pool of death. You know, Moon catchers who beat Cusp yesterday, thank you very much. Cusp are in that power pool, carried that loss forwards. You've got Wall City, who beat Chak in the original pool, carried that win forward, and then Chak beat Mooncatchers. I think Cusp ended up closing out Wall City. So is everyone one-on-one now?
Everyone is one-on-one.
Amazing.
Kuzma +1 on the points difference, and Wall City are -1. Both Chak are -1. Both Mooncatchers and Wall City are 0. So it's 1 point in the difference, 2 points in the difference between bottom and top. It's so, so, so close.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. It's one of the reasons why the power pool system is often a fan favourite. Randler up 12-6 on Flying Angels Burn, so that one feels like it's good, almost done and dusted. Foy, nice little comeback there over MUC. They're now up 13-10. As we mentioned, the current score here is 11-6, and the Big Easy are up 12-9 on Jet Set from Leuven in the host country of Belgium in the lower power pools. We'll get some other updates from around the fields as well, and if you want to see what's going on live, well, you can continue watching us here on the ULTI.TV YouTube channel live, and don't worry if you miss a game, because we don't hide it behind a paywall. It's up there on YouTube for all eternity, so you can go in the comments and frequently point out exactly how wrong we were. Which was not at all, hopefully.
Never.
Costa Rica, off the timeout, they decide to drop the big bomb deep. And even though he's giving up maybe an inch or two, Brudelin goes up early enough to get the block, and now FreeSpeed want a huck of their own, but it looks like it's going out of the sideline. And if it wasn't, doesn't look like that Sapucci was keen to find out.
FreeSpeed are clearly sticking to this huck and D tactic, because it's late on in the game at this stage, and every time there's a turnover, they're just picking it up and throwing it down the other side. Costa Rica have shown on several occasions that they are able to work it up, so it's interesting that FreeSpeed have not adjusted and tried to play more fluid offense. I mean, I know the conditions are difficult, but we've seen them do it.
Well, it feels that sometimes this is very much air raid ultimate from both sides, you know, just winding up and bombs away. And I think kind of appropriately, there's been a lot of times when they have missed the target.
Yeah, this is certainly not clinical from either team, but it doesn't really matter how you do it terribly in this point so far.
The problem is they need to do more than just win the field position battle when you're down 5 points and now your opponent has the disc to make it 6, and lovely little bit of give-go, taking advantage of those poached players to gobble as many yards as possible before the FreeSpeed defense really knows what hits them. That is a beautiful leading backhand, that almost barbecue style, the backhand to the forehand side, and honestly, like full fat milk all the way into the end zone for the clap catch. Costa Rica, it feels like, are on the precipice of pre-quarters with a 12-6 lead here, Sean.
Definitely. It was a really nice backhand, and the receiver did a fantastic job of moving his body so that he didn't have to catch outside the end zone, giving himself more time, and yet making sure that he didn't give any defenders position to kind of come through. They would have had to go straight through him, would have been a foul, positioned it perfectly, and a very well-earned score for Costa Rica. And again, we talked about both teams jacking it, both teams taking shots. Costa Rica scored that point by playing fluid ultimate and moving it all the way through.
And we just haven't really seen that this game from FreeSpeed, and that has been the problem with Costa Rica up 12-6, and it feels like if they're not quite there, then they can almost taste the pre-quarters in this game. And you mentioned there the ability to have your head on a swivel, you know, keep your wits about you, use the peripheral vision to make sure that everything is okay and that you are not inviting the potential for a defender to make a closing bid, as perhaps we saw in the other end zone on that Miglioretto hammer.
Yeah, that hung up and let the defender get back into it, but the throws from Costa Rica have not given the defense a chance at all. It's been really, really good and really solid, and they have been really, really impressive throughout.
So 12-6 is the current score as we try and get the rain out of the electronic scoreboard. This pool is deep, fielded cleanly by FreeSpeed. The around throw goes. And now they're trying to slice through the middle of the field. A bit of zone from Costa Rica now to try and perhaps outfox the veteran Swiss. We'll see how well they're dealing with it. It felt like they've probably seen everything, but I scarcely say they can scarcely say that they'll have seen a game with quite so many unforced errors.
Yeah, I don't think the zone wasn't necessarily the reason for that. It did slow them down, obviously, but that's just execution.
And maybe this is the plan from Rimini, is just to make the Swiss make those extra passes, you know, kind of play the percentages where even if they're short throws, in these conditions, it's quite likely that one will squeeze through, will slip out of the hand a little bit. You won't get the grip or the purchase required.
Another expansive option there from Costa Rica, which is probably not necessarily required. Straight to a FreeSpeed defender. FreeSpeed are going to have another chance to work through this Costa Rica zone.
Well, you could work through it, or you could work over it.
Or you could lob it a mile deep, even past the zone and your players. So that's probably the option they took there.
Yeah, I see that they're looking for the deep cut to Brugelin, but that was overthrow and is generous.
Definitely, definitely. It's another situation where it seems as though they just didn't have the composure to keep moving it around the back. I don't know whether they've talked about this, and you also spoke, Benji, about how big FreeSpeed's roster is. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of the same players. I don't know whether maybe they've got some injuries on there, or whether they think because they're down they have to really work through their key players, but we've seen Miglioretto, we've seen Brudelin out there a lot.
Well, I'm thinking back to the UK Nationals final where, you know, Clapham were giving Chevron a bit of a beating, as it so often seems to be, and it was only when kind of Chevron really opened up their lines and got more of their younger players out there that it feels like they really found a way back into the game. There's maybe the signature overhead from FreeSpeed that they have lacked the success that they desire to really power their offense. Mosa goes back to Miglioretto. Miglioretto with the hammer. Finds Brudelin. No! What a bid! Unbelievable. Had absolutely no right to get that. Should have been Brudelin's all day. I'm just trying to get a spot of the number. I think that is 33, Pietro Vanucci. And what a play Vanucci has made there. Horizontal, what? Hip height layout. Unbelievable, Sean.
He's looking at the sideline, giving the mean mug. He knows that was really good. That was a potentially point-turning play, but another turnover there.
And then FreeSpeed eventually just flow it towards the open side for the goal. And perhaps maybe, you know, when that Miglioretto hammer to Brudelin, which seems to have been their signature play for so many years, doesn't come off, and it is denied in such spectacular fashion. It really feels like it won't be your day, but Costa Rica couldn't make the most of it, and FreeSpeed get back on the board for 12-7, but they've still got a whole lot of work to do here, Sean.
Oh, definitely. You can see Vanucci coming off the field. He's just got a massive layout block, and they haven't been able to convert. Want teams to settle down and start and continue playing their game, not be brought out of it by the fact they're getting close to the end. But great play by Vanucci. We talked a lot about FreeSpeed not executing and playing the kind of game they need to play to win this game. But
well,
we should probably talk more about how well Costa Rica have been playing.
Yeah, that wasn't a case of FreeSpeed doing the wrong thing. That was a case of Costa Rica just almost putting a big, 2 fingers to the face of their opponents and showing them who's boss.
Yeah, it was a great play. Vernucci looking over towards the commentary booth. Don't worry, if you watch this game back, you are going to hear good things about that play. It was a fantastic layout block.
Wasn't bad, was it?
Not bad at all.
Wasn't bad. I think we'll be maybe seeing that one on a highlight reel somewhere very soon.
Yeah, I think the outstanding play of this game so far.
I would not disagree with you there.
It's a massive pull.
So this can perhaps help to stymie the motion of the offensive pull deep into their own territory. Fantini's holding onto the disc for a while now. Goes towards the near sideline. Ruscello. Low. Clap caught at the knees. Little pass inside. Finds Fabri. Must say, this is what we've seen from Rimini with the consistency that FreeSpeed haven't managed. They've had that ability to work the disc nicely down the field in this free-flowing Italian style of which we're so used to. And a lead throw towards the open side. Cool as you like. You would never even know about the atmospheric conditions here because that was vintage Costa Rica.
Yeah, really nice offense. Worked it all the way through. Like you say, it's the kind of stuff we haven't been able to see FreeSpeed execute because the pressure from Costa Rica has been too great and FreeSpeed have been hucking it quite a lot. But Costa Rica working it through, and that final pass, after working it all the way around, you saw the cutter point into the space he wanted it to go into and executed beautifully by the Italians.
It's satisfying. Sometimes you see cutters point and just like, you don't know what they're looking at, or there's a defender in there, or if there isn't, the defender suddenly goes, well, you've just made my job easier. And that time it's quite satisfying when you point to where you want it and the throw goes there and it all works. And I must admit, Costa Rica Grandes they've not just been better than FreeSpeed, they've been miles better than FreeSpeed.
Yeah, played them off the park a little bit here. I think one team has come into this ready to do whatever it took to win the game, and the other one has come in and been a bit more cautious, has been second guessing themselves and trying things that haven't been coming off. Costa Rica are setting themselves up really nicely for a shot at the pre-quarters where they're going to play a good team, obviously, but they've got a real chance if they play like this.
I wonder if perhaps FreeSpeed saw the conditions and then told themselves they would have to win ugly, whereas for Costa Rica they said, if we need to, we can do that, but also it's not the only way to do it. We are capable to play our ultimate in these conditions.
Certainly could be the case that Costa Rica kind of tried to just ignore the weather and FreeSpeed built a game plan around it, but whatever the reason, you see there another kind of mental error from FreeSpeed. Whatever the reason, they're doing very well. A
simple drop in the cup from Van Barsen, but one bad turn deserves another, and it's back in FreeSpeed hands. Here's Bruzelin, hasn't been getting the disc deep, so now he's going to put it himself and just a little palm to the floor. I would have perhaps preferred to see him catch it and get this, get the D-line offense rocking and rolling, but they're just going to take it a bit more time, perhaps take a bit more air out of the game metaphorically, not necessarily literally, because they're going to immediately put it themselves, and this one goes out of bounds quite early and does not come back in.
We've seen both teams do that a lot, haven't we? We've seen very little fast starting on these hucks, people knocking out the air and letting your offense sit, which is somewhat odd, given that neither offense has really been fantastic from a set disc. You would think if you had a kind of a scrambled D, it might be a bit easier.
And there's the Miglioretto hammer, and again! Wow, they're all over this. It's ridiculous, frankly, from Costa Rica. Just trying to get a spot of that. It looks like 98, which is actually 20 catch.
Yeah, I think that's even more difficult than layout blocks, to be honest. Wrapping your hand around that greasy disc, full extension to the left, really impressive catch.
There was a head school, but someone got a little bit of plastic to the temple regardless.
Looked like it was a high stall huck there, just had to get rid of it.
Yeah, they've been smarter about when they've hucked it. There have been times when they've waited for everyone to get into position and then just lost it anyway, but there have been times when they've waited and waited and tried to find the underpasses before it's been a last resort. So Buldelin towards the centre. Nicolas Miglioretto throws to his brother. Takes the around option. Just trying to slow things down, keep calm, keep that patience against the Costa Rica zone. Again, just trying to test maybe the mental willpower and restraint of FreeSpeed, or maybe not with the hammer deep, and it is caught at the second effort by Bush, and then can't do anything with it. That's got to be frustrating.
Definitely. It was a nice hammer straight to the receiver. This time no defender around, and to lose it like that, disappointing.
High, and I think maybe he thought he was going to carry a little bit further than he did, Paradisi. And another opportunity now for FreeSpeed with Miglioretto. See, they're baiting the huck slightly and also testing the discipline. You know, will you take these free shots, even if they're not necessarily hugely positive? As Brudelin finds an option deep he likes, Paradisi is closing the door, and he climbs the ladder once more. Two outstanding defensive plays this point from Matteo Paradisi.
Yeah, goes all the way up above the receiver, and that is a really nice block. He read it well the whole way. He was behind. I thought the receiver had position there, but reaches over the top of him and knocks it away. Really, really impressive stuff from the deep in that zone.
Just seemed to have the confidence that he could close that gap, maybe baiting, sitting off a little bit, believed to have the stride length and the speed across the ground to shut that window, and full credit because they were not wrong.
Yeah, it looked like Bush had position, but Paradisi has had a storm of a game so far. Some big defensive plays, caught a couple of big goals early on, but early turnover from Costa Rica there.
So FreeSpeed will be looking to pop this in very short order. Right on that front cone is Miglioretto, and he goes back for the reset, and it is smuggled to the turf in between two FreeSpeed receivers. Picked up quickly. Farugio goes underneath, and they're working it towards the far sideline. Back, oh, this one's going to pop and float, and just about caught at the second attempt by Guarini, and he wants to take a breath and take a pause. It's going to be a timeout.
I think that's a sensible choice. It was getting a bit frantic for both teams there. A couple of pretty bad turnovers, a couple of fluttery discs. Certainly a near turnover there just before he caught that for the timeout. So a good opportunity to take a breath, calm down, assess your options, and based on what we've seen coming out of timeouts from Costa Rica so far, bang it deep.
I mean, it does feel like they might have a strategy coming out of the timeout, I will be honest. So just going to take a little bit of a pause to tell you about what we've got coming next on, or for the rest of the day here on ULTI.TV at xEUCF 2021. On this field, Field 2, it's a women's crossover match. That will be Love from Leuven in Belgium taking on Terrible Monkeys. You are sticking around for that, I believe, with Hannah?
Yes, I think so.
And I'm going over to Field 3. I'll be joining Ali Thomas for Flo Wrocław against Mainz Arena, mixed action from Pool D. We've got some open pre-quarters at 5:20. Those still to be confirmed, pending the results of the last Power Pool games. And then 7 o'clock, take down MUC 15-10, Ranelagh 15-6 over Flying Angels Bern. Ranelagh looking very good as well. Moon catches up 1 on Wall City, 9-8 last we heard. Outsiders close out Prague Devils 15-11. Big Easy up 13-11 on Jet Set. Forward up 13-9 on XVI. 13-6 between Bora and Odin. And very excitingly, Chak 10, Kuzblafota 10 as well. So plenty of intrigue going on as we wait to find out what those pre-quarters matchups will be. And as soon as we find out, and as soon as we work out which games we are streaming, we will let you know here on ULTI.TV. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, and press the little bell button to get notifications of when we go live to find out what the exciting action will be here at xEUCF. An interesting look. I mean,
coming out of the timeout, that's the play we drew up.
If it had worked, they'd look like geniuses. As it is, they do not look like that, as Miglioretto picks up with no force. He's got plenty of time and space, and it's Paradisi again! I mean, anything you might throw where he can get even in the area code is probably ill-advised. Bobbled, topped, no.
Put it again, put it again.
I mean, it feels like their trousers are on fire, which is amazing given the weather. As Bridlin finally threads the needle to the end zone. Well, I kind of feel when points like that, sometimes when a score is just nicely working it underneath, it's a bit of an anticlimax. I mean, I feel a bit for Paradisi because sensation. 13-8 the current score. Still a couple of points needed, and I wonder that perhaps if FreeSpeed can get a couple on the board here now, at what point would Rimini begin to panic?
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? FreeSpeed, even if they get one break, they're going to be thinking, well, we know we've got one, we can get more, and that starts to eat away at your confidence.
We've been here before, we'll be here again, we know we can do it, whereas for Cotarica, you know, maybe this is a slightly different territory for them, as that one is turfed into the 4G, so maybe now the tide will turn Basel's way, which it feels weird to say because obviously Basel is not on the coast at all.
Yeah, you got the Costa Rica sideline right there. They look a little worried. Their coach, or one of their coaches, who's been holding a fly swatter the whole game, been waving it around all game. He's much less animated at the moment. Bit of worry now. Oh no, pointing the fly swatter. There we go.
It's a strong look, I have to say. I feel like there may be some symbolism or meaning behind that, or it could just be that it's funny, which I respect immediately. Mosa looks deep in the end zone. It's another goal, just about in there. Well, doesn't matter whether you're 5 yards in or 5 centimeters in, as long as your first body contact's in the end zone, it counts. And then found a shot that worked for them. So, I'll tell you what, if FreeSpeed click into gear now, and they can apply a little bit of pressure, we could be in for a mind-blowing finish here.
For sure. I mean, it's been an interesting game, if not that close, all the way up to this point. If we start getting a bit closer, it will be one of the standout games of the tournament so far. So
potentially grandstand stuff here. Although Cotarica will very much be hoping to hold their nerve and sniff out any hopes, or snuff out, I should say, any hopes of a FreeSpeed comeback before it ever really ignites. On this sideline, oh, it slips through the fingers. Duela goes into the center for Haas. He's put his hat back on. Mosa to Bush. Bush to the end zone for the score. 13-10, game to 14. Look, it's not on yet, Sean. I am not saying that it's on. I'm just saying that it's not on.
We need to be aware of it becoming on at any moment, I would say, Benji.
Yes, that switch is dangerously close to being flipped.
Because FreeSpeed, you can see how excited they are. 2 breaks in a row. They've needed this all game. They've left it until the very last minute, but game to 14, 4 more points in a row from FreeSpeed. They're going to be on D for the rest of this game, but they've done 2 in a row. Can they stop Costa Rica getting that one score they need to move through to the pre-quarters?
For a relatively young Costa Rica side, perhaps untested. So the pool is going to be fielded by Costa Rica. You can tell there's a bit more intensity from both sides. Mosa comes through, doesn't catch it, gets away with it. Just about enough speed to close the gap. Thought he was going to have to lay, didn't need to. Mosa's power, just ludicrous defensive plays that didn't get the job done. And it felt like, okay, if FreeSpeed are going to come back into that, they're going to need a player who's going to put the team on their back. And Mosa's, you know, I think that will do it. Well, they're going back out there for, it looks like a lot of FreeSpeed were going back out there, but I think that is game.
Oh, if that is game, it doesn't look like FreeSpeed or Costa Rica know it. Costa Rica did not celebrate that at all. It looks like they think they're going to need to score another one.
So I wonder if perhaps this game got started a bit late because of the previous game overrunning, that we've still got some more time left in this one as well.
More drama.
Well, I'm not complaining. I'm supposed to be joining Field 3, A, S, A, and P, and as soon as this finishes, I'm going to hot foot my way over there. But I cannot tear myself away from the end of this. No way.
It's been a really good game, and that throw inside from Costa Rica, it looked like Paradisi might be able to get there, just quite couldn't get his hand on it. Another turnover gives them an opportunity, and that nice inside throw for the score. They really needed that after that run from FreeSpeed, but I'd still say FreeSpeed are going to be feeling confident. All they're going to need to do is put this offense in, and it puts all the pressure back on the Italians.
So we know what the task is for these sides. First to 15. That's only one more point for Cotarica Grandes from Rimini on the east coast of Italy. And for Basel's FreeSpeed, they've got to put in this 0 point to make it 14-12. And then 3 breaks back to back. That seems like a tall ask. Well, they did it just a minute or so ago. So they know it's in the tank potentially.
I wonder if we look back at that miscommunicated swing, Benji, is a really key moment. It looked like he was just throwing it to absolutely nobody. It was a strange play.
It felt like it took a lot of air out of a FreeSpeed comeback. Here's Bruzelin. Looking around, eventually finds an option freeing themselves up downfield. And Sekinger with, oh, this is very swirly, gets a lot of air underneath it, and defended well by Cotarica. That is a interesting choice of shot.
Considering the game situation and considering kind of the conditions and how it's been going, I can't really believe he just threw that hammer.
It's a little bit difficult to justify.
It looks as though, I mean, we are coming back in on the cone, so at least there's got the field position from it, but a very, very expansive choice at a time where it feels like you need to be a little more considered. Fly swatter being pointed demonstratively.
You like that fly swatter, don't you?
I'm obsessed with it. I don't know why he's holding a fly swatter.
Are we going to be seeing that at Thundering Herd training soon to protect the cow print?
Perhaps, if I need to get my point across, I'll bring a fly swatter out. It looks as though it's really doing a good job. I mean, he's waving it, getting that that offensive.
Get one of those electric ones so you can zap people as well.
Oh, that might work, yeah.
Yeah.
A cattle prod? Basic
casino. I'm not really a gambler, to be honest.
I think you're good.
Okay, good. This one is low and flat through the middle. And there's going to be a foul call. It was... I'm pretty sure he was not aiming then, maybe got it a bit lower, and in the end it would have to be caught in the intermediary because it was thrown very hard if that was the intended target.
I think he's trying to paradise and it's come late. It looks as though he's just going back to the original thrower. It's a contested foul, which means everyone should be resetting, but they are not.
They're just going to go into a place that seems about right and play on.
Yep.
It's usually how it works. I think it's Fontini who has the disc in his hands. Black headband wrapped around his forehead. Getting low on the mark. Squares up, bobbles it, and it is just about kind of fumbled to the ground by Burkhardt. I'm not sure he'll mind though, because the turn counts all the same. And there's the Miglioretto hammer, and misread by Bush. Credit to Fontini, because I think he suckered him in a little bit there, and actually, if he trusted his original read, hung at the back of the end zone, there was space to make the catch.
Yeah, I think the fact that they've had so many blocks on those hammers probably was playing in his mind, and he thought you had to go and challenge the D to try and get there, but you're right. He had a read on it, and the defender sucked him away from it, but that Miglioretto hammer so far has been a mainstay of the FreeSpeed offense for so long, but has not been working in this game.
It's a blessing and a curse at times.
Definitely.
So Paradisi coming underneath. Pivots turn centrally. Fantini now working it downfield beyond the halfway line.
That is a huge turnover. Bush is there in the end zone. It's in his hands. That would have been 14-13. More pressure put on the Italians, and he couldn't reel it in. That is a huge blow to FreeSpeed's chances in this game, I think.
I don't want to call anyone out. I don't want to feel like I'm calling players out, but I don't think Bush has had his best game here for FreeSpeed.
Yeah, there's a few FreeSpeed players who've been a little more erratic than we're used to seeing them. Their kind of mainstay players have been really up and down, and while they've been able to bring it back a little bit late in this game, it's really down to a couple of people to make some plays here, and they haven't quite been able to make them.
And here's the thing, because these players are so good, you know that perhaps they could just turn it on at any moment. So really trying to move the mark around, squares up, swings to Francini. Low, looking around for more options, goes back into the middle for Francini. A little bit wobbly, no problem. Beyond the halfway line, this is high. It's going to come down with snow on it. And Paradisi could only tip it on out of the back of the end zone. Well, if anyone on the pitch was like getting loud, well, they want to end the game in one way, and that way is a Callahan. And they're going to do it! Unbelievable!
I've heard of commentator's curse, Benji. That was commentator's precognition. You said you didn't have it yet. I think you might do now.
Well, my work here is done. Honestly, it felt, you know, optimistic, the sort of thing that you say to just try and put the pressure on even if you don't believe it. Doesn't seem like anyone told Costa Rica that, because they have upset the odds here. They've upset FreeSpeed, and they will take their place in the pre-quarters. Sean, that was a hell of a game. I've got to wrap it up here because I've got to go motor my way over to Field 3 as quickly as possible. Thanks so much for watching ULTI.TV's coverage of xEUCF. For all of our crew, for Sean Colfer, I've been Benjamin Rees. Congrats to Cotarica Grandes. We'll see them in the pre-quarters, and I'll see you on the other side.
Come